Hi everyone, it's been a while. I've been gone for 6 months. I was busy with my main job, but now I'll try to post videos more often. I'll try to put out a video about once every 3 days. We'll see how that goes. And now for the news. Elon Musk merged two of his businesses. His space company SpaceX bought XAI Grok, plus the former Twitter. The new company's value was estimated at 1.25 trillion. The merged company is set to go public this summer. Elon Musk is doing great. I don't know how to feel about him. Personally, I don't see him as some kind of inventor or pioneer, but I do consider him a great marketer. If there's one thing, marketing is definitely his thing. He just promotes himself and his companies to the absolute maximum. Well, you can only envy that. Landlocked Belarus became the main supplier of fish to Russia in 2025, delivering 112,000 tons worth 336 million, the Fish Union reported. China and Turkey follow next. Why pick on Belarus? There are plenty of rivers there and they have fish in those rivers. That's it. Crime news. Two Siberians were caught drawing dollars. In Novosibirsk, they shut down a group that was manufacturing and selling counterfeit $100 bills. An underground printing shop was set up in the basement of a residential building. Benjamin Franklin's portrait on the $100 bill has probably been printed everywhere from Ecuador to some place like Honduras. But in a Siberian basement, it's likely never been printed before. OnlyFans is planning to sell a 60% stake to the investment firm Architect Capital. Bloomberg is reporting this, citing sources. According to the agency, as part of the deal, the company will be valued at $3.5 billion. Architect Capital is seeking $2 billion in debt financing for the deal. I have never actually visited this platform. First of all, it's blocked here in Russia, and secondly, there are plenty of other interesting sites out there. But honestly, good for them. Man, the company was valued at $3.5 billion. And, well, I'm just speechless, really. That's cool, I guess, I don't know. I don't know how to put it. Tell me what you think in the comments. Google has stated that they don't fully understand their artificial intelligence system, which is self-learning using black box logic. The company also admitted that their artificial intelligence has started doing things that it wasn't programmed to do. When asked why the Google team is releasing something to the public that they don't understand themselves, the company replied that people don't fully understand how the human brain works. The human brain, of course, we don't understand how it works. It's a complex mechanism. Sometimes you're just amazed at what it does. But this is artificial intelligence. No matter how you look at it, there's an algorithm and a certain logic. And if we don't understand what's going on there, if Sarah Connor were listening to us right now, she would be in shock. An Australian AI company turned out to be a call center from Kenya. Instead of a neural network, people were texting with the clients. An employee of NEF Media Services said he worked as a text operator and, on behalf of 3 to 5 fictional characters, conducted romantic, intimate chats with lonely Americans who believed they were talking to AI girls. He was paid 5 cents per message. The main goal was to get the client to renew their subscription. And here's the next news story. In China, men spent millions of dollars on online girlfriends who turned out to be an artificial intelligence scam. Scammers used artificial intelligence to create a photo and video image of a girl who swindled victims out of money for business and medical treatment for relatives. Police detained 10 people involved in the scam. It turned out that thousands of people were affected. The world is getting more and more complex. Sometimes you're texting, having a conversation, and you don't understand who you're talking to, a real person or a robot. And soon we'll reach a point where we won't be able to tell over the phone if it's a robot or a human. Everything is getting complicated. For the first time in history, over half of the cars sold in China were electric, according to the China Passenger Car Association. The share of new energy vehicles, including electric cars and plug-in hybrids in retail sales, reached a record level of 51.1% in July. What an interesting irony. Europe, which fought for its energy, one could even say, simply buried its economy, lost to China, which didn't even do that. Nvidia has halted talks on a $100 billion investment in OpenAI, which was touted last fall as the largest ever private company investment. According to the Wall Street Journal, the deal hasn't moved past the preliminary stage because Nvidia's leadership has doubts about OpenAI's business model as competition from Google and Anthropic intensifies. But competition isn't just from Google or Anthropic. There's DeepSeek. Alibaba is rolling out their own AIs, but let's be honest, OpenAI, they've put out a great product like ChatGPT, but from an economic perspective, they've become a bit of a money pit. Everyone's pouring money into them, and they stalled, they released ChatGPT, and it's just not evolving anymore. It makes things up a lot. I use it, it lies constantly, I catch it in lies all the time. It apologizes. And sometimes it just keeps saying, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, until you literally shove a screenshot in its face. Like, look, this is how it is. This is how it works. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was wrong. So, I mean, OpenAI right now is a massive bloated financial bubble that I'm afraid is about to burst, but they did release a great product. Chinese cars have taken 10% of the European market. Also, manufacturers from China in the last quarter of 2025 for the first time overtook Korean competitors in new car sales volumes. Chinese cars are especially popular in the United Kingdom, southern European countries, Spain, Italy, and Greece. Honestly, I haven't been to Europe. I don't know what cars are there now. I can't see for myself. But in Russia, yeah, Chinese cars have just flooded the place. From what I hear, they say there are also many Chinese cars in Europe. Write in the comments because I'm not really an expert on this matter. The cat economy, which is the market for cat goods and services in Thailand, has reached 367.8 billion baht. That's approximately $11.8 billion, and it was officially recognized by the government as an important part of the country's economy. Demand for cats as more compact pets is also increasing amid urbanization and housing shortages. Nikkei Asia notes that the market for cat lovers exceeds the similar market for dogs. Well, animals are cute. I love them too. I've got 2 of them sleeping right there. Write in the comments, are you a cat person or a dog person? Rosstat included trips to Dubai in Russia's inflation calculation. These are common expenses for Russians, the agency explained. Well, basically, yeah, it's like going to the dacha, it's right nearby. The G7's share of the global economy will drop to 10% in the coming decade. This is due to declining birth rates in these countries, stated Deputy Chief of the Presidential Administration Maxim Oreshkin. According to him, the G7's share of the global economy fell below 30% by 2025, reaching 28%, while the BRICS share rose to nearly 40%. But it's clear that the BRICS share will grow while the G7's falls because, well, Europe's economy is done. It's stagnating, it's just falling. The self-destruction is happening there. Until they come to their senses, nothing will improve there. Everyone understands this perfectly well by now. In China, an investment company dealing in gold went bankrupt for 1.4 billion and lost investors' money. As Bloomberg reports, the company Jiwo Rui from Shenzhen conducted large-scale speculative gold operations nationwide, contributing to a sharp rise in the precious metals price. But a single investment company with a turnover of just 1.4 billion couldn't have possibly caused the growth of an asset that is worth trillions. That's what they're writing too. I'm amazed, of course, at how journalists target people who don't understand anything at all. While the company went bankrupt, it went bankrupt. They shouldn't have traded with leverage. The Pentagon wants to put weapon control in the hands of artificial intelligence. Anthropic has faced a conflict with the Pentagon over the terms of use for its artificial intelligence Claude. Negotiations for a $200 million contract have stalled, Reuters and the Wall Street Journal report. I'll say it again, Sarah Connor is just in shock. Due to Bitcoin's drop and gold's surge, El Salvador decided to diversify its reserves and is buying $50 million worth of gold. First of all, 50 million is a very small amount for a country. I mean, it's a really small amount for a country. 50 million is basically nothing. And second, I just can't understand why El Salvador got into Bitcoin. It's such a volatile instrument that holding a country's assets in it, well, man, it's just plain stupid. I don't understand how this is happening. 3 days ago, Trump called himself the world's top crypto guy and the savior of crypto. And here's what came of it. Since then, the crypto market lost 330 billion in market cap, losing an average of 208 million every hour, or an average of 1.4 million per second. Since the start of Trump's presidency, the crypto market has crashed by 30% and lost almost 1.3 trillion. Man, 30% for an asset that was constantly growing, I don't get it either. They're just blowing this out of proportion. The asset was constantly growing, there had to be a correction. What will happen after this correction? That is, of course, the question. They're also writing that Bitcoin fell to the level of $62,000. The last time the price was that low was a couple of years ago, and back in October it cost twice as much, $120,000. Ether has crashed below 2,000. Well, we'll see. I think this is just a correction for now. We'll see what happens next. There's no one to build cars in the US. Ford plants can't fill 5,000 job openings. Some pay up to $120,000 a year. I don't know if that's a lot of money or not. I don't live and haven't lived in the US. If you live in the US, well, let me know in the comments. Is that amount for the US big or not? Management admits to a catastrophic staff shortage. Meanwhile, the Chinese company BYD is building a plant that will be larger than the city of San Francisco. With such production scales, low costs, huge human resources, and their own sales market, competing will be just incredibly and very difficult. Well, the Chinese are doing great. I'm just amazed by them. They're just moving forward by leaps and bounds. The National Bank of Belarus presented the graphic symbol of the Belarusian ruble. Let's not compare it to the Russian one. Bitcoin is no longer among the world's top 10 largest assets. In terms of market cap, it's now in 13th place, though it used to be in the top 5. Losses in commodities, stocks, precious metals, and crypto over just a few days are estimated at 12 trillion. I don't follow the crypto market, I'm not interested in it at all, but if you look at the precious metals market, everything was so overbought that a correction of 20, 30, or even 40% was long overdue. Because whether it's gold or silver, they just kept rising and rising, and it was just, well, getting out of hand. A correction just had to happen. Now that the correction has hit, everyone's crying about it and it's all over the news. Although, again, logically speaking, anyone who trades knew a correction was coming and that it was bound to happen. South Korea's Hyundai Motor didn't buy back its former car manufacturing plant in Russia. In 2024, the company sold its facility in St. Petersburg to the Russian automotive group AGR for a symbolic 10,000 rubles, with a buyback option. The buyback option's expiration date passed in January. For those watching from outside Russia, I have another channel for international audiences. Let me explain. All the companies that supposedly left Russia, well, more like they were forced to leave, and not by Russia. They left in a clever way. They sold their entire stake in the company for a symbolic 1 ruble, with the right to buy it back in 3 or maybe 5 years. For that same 1 ruble, the whole option. And specifically for South Korea's Hyundai Motor, that buyback right is gone. That's it. So, if Hyundai Motors decides to return, they'll have to do it on standard terms, not preferential ones. Honestly, I don't know how they'll return, because the Chinese market has simply flooded Russia. And basically, you could say the Koreans have already lost their customer base. Chinese President Xi Jinping has called for making the yuan a global reserve currency. For the first time, he directly stated his intention to give the Chinese yuan the status of a global reserve currency. I looked at the statistics. The Chinese yuan is currently used as a reserve currency for only 2% in the world, while the US dollar is still 58%. Yes, it is falling, of course, but let's be honest, 58% is a huge amount. And considering the recent US policy, I wouldn't be surprised if they find a way out of this crisis. The regional banking crisis is returning to the US. In 2026, the first bank went bankrupt, Chicago's Metropolitan Capital Bank and Trust. It was closed by Illinois state regulators due to a lack of capital. I don't know what to say here because maybe it was just a localized problem for the bank. It's just one bank. Naturally, journalists are going to blow this way out of proportion. Now, if 2 or 3 banks in a row go under, that would be a real warning sign. But for now, well, it's just one bank. Maybe it just had its own issues. Donald Trump. I never had any intention of making Greenland the 51st state. I want to make Canada the 51st state. Greenland will be the 52nd. Venezuela could become the 53rd. Well, Venezuela is unlikely to become the 53rd. Greenland might actually be the 52nd. Trump is actually doing a great job. And Canada, well, let's be honest, it's always been, roughly speaking, in quotes, the 51st US state. Canada basically lives off the US. But honestly, Trump is great, he says a lot of things, but look, everything he talks about, he slowly but surely achieves it. He seems like such a showman, but in fact all the tasks set in the end, well, he gets them done. Durov turned down a 300 million grok integration for privacy. The deal with Musk hit a dead end because Telegram isn't ready to give a third-party AI access to user chats. Instead, the messenger is developing its own solution, Cocoon, a decentralized network for AI requests. I don't know. The negotiation process is a tough business. And most likely they just didn't reach an agreement, because either last year or the year before, Durov wrote a post that they'd launch an integration with Grok, and Musk publicly said, well, like, no. Most likely that's where their conflict started, and they decided not to develop the relationship between the companies any further. Germany's oldest hotel has gone bankrupt after 270 years of operation. The Schaumburger Hof Hotel, founded in 1755 on the Rhine, has filed for bankruptcy. There's a crisis in Europe. Well, probably not just in Europe. There's a crisis all over the world right now. But Europe is engaging in some kind of self-torture of its own economy. The Dutch authorities want to raise taxes and make investors pay a tax on the estimated increase in the value of their assets every year. Man, that's really bad news, because neither Russia nor the US has anything like that. So what's the deal here? Say, for example, you own Apple shares, which, give you a 20% annual return. And you also, hypothetically speaking, have Citibank shares that have dropped by 20%. So even though you haven't sold either one yet, at the end of the year, they'll tax you on those Apple shares. That's just stupid, because in reality, your assets haven't grown and they haven't decreased at all. But once that tax is deducted, you'll end up in the red. I hope this doesn't spread to any other country and stays only in the Netherlands. And maybe they won't even raise it in the Netherlands. For now, it's just rumors. Germany's Deutsche Bank believes Europe might start selling off American assets in response to a new US conflict, and this will crash the dollar. Man, they've been writing for, 20 years now, that the dollar is about to collapse, to crash. But the US does, let's just admit it, the US does great geopolitics. They have their fingers in literally every country, and I can't even imagine who would sell American assets. The only one there who owns very large assets is Norway, the Sovereign Wealth Fund of Norway. But I highly doubt that they'll just start selling all of it off en masse. According to Deutsche Bank, Europe currently holds $8 trillion in US stocks and bonds. Deutsche Bank analysts note that the US now has one main vulnerability. It's living at the expense of the rest of the world. And when was it ever different? A few interesting facts. BlackRock manages $14 trillion in assets. This amount exceeds the combined GDP of Germany, Japan, Brazil, and Russia. So shall we envy in silence? While we try to find an extra 100 rubles in our winter jacket. The State Duma recommended that Russians keep their savings in gold. Deputy Chairman of the Economic Policy Committee, Mikhail Delyagin, stated that the best options are bullion bars and investment coins. According to him, citizens have about 16 trillion rubles stashed away, a significant portion of which is involved in the shadow economy. Yes, gold is rising, but going to the bank and buying a metal brick or some collectible investment coin, I'm sure, even with the 20 to 30% growth that just happened, you'll sell that gold back to the bank at, well, a massive discount. Instead of injecting 16 trillion rubles into the country's economy, Mikhail Delyagin advises going to the bank to buy gold. Maybe, honestly, I'm missing something here because, well, I'm my own economist. On Avito, they are selling a gas field for 4.5 billion rubles. The project's payback period is just 3 years, and the gas can also be used for mining. Anyone need a gas field? Look, only 4.5 billion? Well, seriously, it's unlikely to pay off in 3 years if it's listed on Avito. That's just very strange. Though anything is sold on Avito these days. Alibaba will spend $431 million on an AI campaign for the Lunar New Year amid the intensifying chatbot war. See, that's exactly what I'm talking about. I mean, there are more and more competitors for OpenAI.